Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you're doing good and welcome back to my channel. You know, a question that a lot of engaged couples ask themselves when they're early on in the planning process is, do I have to hire a wedding videographer? Should I hire a wedding videographer? And the answer to that question is, it depends. There's a lot of factors and things you should consider when hiring a wedding videographer. And today I'm going to go over all the things with you and try to help you figure out if hiring a wedding videographer is going to be right for you. So in case you're new here, my name is Jose and I am the owner of Delia Studios, which is a wedding videography company based right here in Jackson, New Jersey. We've been in business for over 10 years and I have personally shot over 500 weddings. But despite that, I'm still going to give you my honest opinion on whether you should be considering a wedding videographer for your wedding. And I'm going to be honest, it's not for everybody. So when it comes to the wedding planning process, a lot of couples don't initially prioritize wedding videography. So we're usually more in the middle or the bottom of that list. And what that looks like here in the office is we'll usually get an email from a couple saying something like, hey, we weren't initially going to get a wedding videographer, but now that we're getting closer to our wedding date and we see that a lot of our friends hired wedding videographers, we're starting to consider it. So we wanted to know, are you still available on our date? And that's not uncommon for us to see here in the office. Now, before we talk about wedding videography and where on your planning list you should put it, if you should put it there at all, let's actually take a moment to talk about your other vendors that are pretty essential to your wedding day. So the first person I want to talk about that's definitely essential on your wedding day is your priest or your pastor, your officiant, whoever is going to be marrying you on your wedding day. That person is definitely a key player because without them, you're not going to have your wedding certificate, which means you're not going to be married. So they're definitely going to be top of the list. Another really important wedding vendor is going to be your actual wedding venue. For the purposes of this video, let's just say your wedding venue is going to be where you're going to have your reception at, your cocktail hour. This is where all your guests are going to go, where you're going to have your food, and of course, your entertainment. So this is a pretty important vendor. Now, the next essential vendor I want to talk about is your florist. Now, can you have a wedding without flowers? I guess it's possible. But realistically speaking, I feel like every wedding is probably going to have some sort of florals going on. From the bouquet to like the ceremony space, whether it's in a church, you know, like the flowers that are like on the pews or at the actual reception space, your centerpieces, if you're having some sort of floral walls going on, all that's going to be taken care of by your florist. So I'm going to go and say that this is another pretty essential vendor that you're going to want to hire. All right, guys. So another essential vendor on your wedding day is going to be your entertainment. Now, when it comes to entertainment, couples usually go one of two ways with this. They either get a DJ or a band. But regardless which way you go with that, you can still have many other add-ons like a live percussionist. You can have dancing on the clouds. You can get sparklers. I mean, you could even have a mascot come. You can have some sort of special performer. So we're just going to group that all under entertainment. And I feel like that's another essential vendor. And not to make this video too long, I'm going to group some other essential vendors together. For instance, like your hairstylist, your makeup artist, your dress, your shoes, your jewelry, a tux for the groom, car service to get to and from. What kind of car? Is it an antique or do you want a limousine? How about signage that says welcome to our wedding? How about a seating chart? How about invitations welcoming everybody to the wedding? I think you're kind of getting the hint here. All of these vendors can add up really quick and they're all pretty essential. Oh snap, I almost forgot to mention one of your most important vendors, and that's going to be your photographer. Now, some would argue, is a photographer essential? And I'm going to say, yes, they are. I don't think a couple is going to throw this big wedding and have all their friends and family come at a beautiful reception space, you know, get flowers, have food, drinks, all type of entertainment, and then not capture it with a photographer. Really, since I've started in this business, every single wedding that I've ever shot has had a photographer. Most of them have had 2, and some of them have even had 3 and 4 photographers at the same time. So yes, I'm gonna say that is another essential vendor. And now that we went through that whole entire list of essential vendors that you're probably gonna wanna hire for your wedding day, what does that leave pretty much at the end of the list? You guessed it, wedding videography. And trust me, I'm not offended by being at the bottom of the list, but that's usually where we're located. Now, I will say this, with social media becoming such a part of everyone's lives, I feel like video has slowly become more and more important over the years, but I do feel if the budget came down to it, a couple will still choose a photographer before they hire a videographer. The other thing I want to mention is that with Gen Z growing up in the digital age, they tend to value videography a little more than photography. But again, if it came down to it budget-wise, I feel like they'll probably still choose a photographer over a videographer. All right, guys, so the reason I talked about all those other essential vendors before talking about wedding videography is because I wanted to paint a realistic picture for you of what actually goes into a wedding when it comes to hiring vendors. And usually that's why wedding videography comes more towards the bottom. But we got to come back to that question that this video is trying to answer. And that question is, should you hire a wedding videographer? Well, the first question we really have to answer when it comes to narrowing that down is, after hiring all those vendors, is it even in your budget? That's a realistic question. Is it in your budget? Can you afford it? If you can, congratulations. We can move on to the next couple questions, but that's going to be a really important factor when it comes to deciding if you're going to hire a wedding videographer or not. Now, in the beginning of this video, I said that from time to time, we get couples that email us here and say something like, hey, we weren't initially planning on getting a videographer, but now that we're getting closer to our wedding day and we see that some of our friends have hired wedding videographers, we would like to inquire and see if you're still available for our date. And we see that here from time to time, and sometimes we're available and sometimes we're not. But what I want to talk about is why you shouldn't leave it for last minute. The first reason is most couples that are planning to have a videographer usually hire them about a year or more out. So what that means is if you leave it for last minute, the chances are the videographer that you really want, they might be all booked up. And that might leave a couple options. One of them being maybe like cheap videographers or entry-level videographers that are not that good, that you don't like the way their stuff looks. And then it might also leave expensive videographers, luxury videographers that haven't booked out yet. So this is why that extra planning once you decide that you want a videographer is important. And guys, since we're on the topic of budget, I kind of want to be transparent and talk about numbers with you, because I don't like when I'm watching a video and people get vague with numbers, or they say, well, it depends on this and it depends on that, and they never really tell you numbers. I like to talk numbers. So when it comes to wedding videography, what can you realistically expect to spend? Well, there are different tiers. There's different levels to this. And I'm going to kind of give you a generalization for my market here in New Jersey at the time of this video, which is 2026. And, you know, New Jersey is not a city, but we are located between New York and Philadelphia. So it is a highly populated area and there are a lot of weddings. So with that being said, the entry-level market here in New Jersey is going to be somewhere between $1,000 to $3,000, I would say. And that's going to maybe get you like one videographer and kind of like a simple film. I don't know exactly what it's going to get you, but that's kind of like the entry economic, level. Then you move into the mid-tier, which a lot of companies live in, and that's going to be like the $3,000 to maybe $8,000 range, or a little bit higher. And that's where you're going to get your 2 videographers, your different types of films. You might get a longer film, a short film, reels, maybe a same-day edit. You have options when it comes to this in that range. And then you're going to have the luxury, what I consider the luxury level, and that's going to be $10,000 and above. And for $10,000 and above, you're probably going to work with really reputable companies that have a great track record, 5-star ratings, a very personalized experience. Your films are probably going to be very story driven. The quality of the audio and the video are going to be amazing. And in that price range, you got to remember that less couples can afford that. So these companies are really battling it out with each other to get the couples that can afford it. So those are kind of like the 3 tiers that I see, but down in the comments, let me know what kind of pricing you see in your area and what you kind of get for that pricing. All right, guys, so the next thing you should ask yourself after you nail down the budget part is, realistically, do you want to see yourself in 10 years from now? Do you want to see your significant other? Do you want to see your parents, your grandparents, everybody that was at the wedding, your friends, your family, what they were doing, how they were talking, how they looked, Styles change, people change, times change, right? It's just life, time passes. And you really want to ask yourself, is that something I want to relive, look back on, and just get the vibe? And, not every couple wants to have kids, but those that do, also ask yourself, is it going to be important for my kids to see me 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, right? The one thing that I always wish I had was my parents' wedding video, but they never got one. They only got a photographer, which is fine. I'm not hating on photography, but it would have been amazing to see my mom and my dad and how they were acting on their wedding day, and the rest of my friends the rest of their friends and family, and all that. It really would have been amazing. So that's another thing you got to ask yourself. And if it sounds like a good idea, then that's another notch towards, yes, you should hire a wedding videographer. And another thing I want to mention, guys, is when your wedding day actually comes, like you actually wake up on your wedding day and it's time to go, there's a lot of emotions. Time starts to go really fast. And if you're living in the moment and experiencing it, there's just so much going on. And I really mean this in a positive way, but like a lot of people are going to be talking to you and trying to get your attention and asking you questions. The photographer is going to be posing you for pictures, and it's just going to move really fast, and you're not really going to be able to remember everything because you're going to be concentrating on getting ready, getting married, and that whole experience. You're not really going to be wrapped up in trying to remember every single detail. And that's kind of where wedding videography comes in the clutch, right? Because we're going to be there for the parts that you can't see. For example, when your partner's getting ready, you're not going to be able to see that unless you had video there to capture it. I mean, photos will capture it, but to see it in motion, see how people are acting and talking and how your guests are reacting to, like, the way you set up your reception, your flowers when they see you. There's so many little things that happen on a wedding day that we're able to capture that most of the things you might not even see. And the things that you are seeing, there's so much coming at you that you're really like not going to remember everything. So that's where wedding videos come into play, A week later, a month later, a year later, you sit back and watch them and you're like, oh, wow. You just start reminiscing and it really brings you back. So that's another plus. If that sounds like something that is important to you, then that's another notch towards, yes, you should get a wedding videographer. And guys, we're almost to the end of this video. But before I wrap it up and make my final points, I do want to say, if you found this video helpful, please consider dropping a like. It really helps us with the algorithm and it helps other people find this information. And also, if you can share this video with somebody you think it might be good for, please feel free to share it. And if you like this kind of content, hit subscribe and consider tapping the notification bell because YouTube doesn't always recommend. All right, guys, and the last point I want to make is that wedding videography has come a long way since like back in the days, right? So people might still have this impression of wedding videographers being these guys that show up with these big cameras on their shoulder with a light on it and they're blinding everybody. And then when it's all said and done, they give you a 3-hour wedding film that nobody wants to watch because it's just like a home video that's maybe kind of boring. I don't know. But wedding videography has actually come a long way since back in the day. And at least speaking for us, I can say that we offer a variety of different films. So we do offer a more traditional type documentary film that's going to show your entire day from like your preps, ceremony, and reception, but it's not going to look like that. It's going to look 10 times better, and it's not going to be that long. It's going to be like 45 minutes to an hour or something like that. But it's a real beautiful film, and it shows your entire day, you know, in its entirety, basically. But we also offer more artistic, story-driven films, which are our short films. Those are usually like around 5 to 6 minutes in length. We also offer same-day edits. So those are going to be those same creative edits, but they're going to be shown at your reception to all of your guests. And let me tell you, that always makes everybody go crazy when they see your actual, you know, 5-minute or 4-minute film being played at the reception, and everybody's going crazy. They're seeing you getting ready. They're seeing you at the church. It blows everybody's mind. And another film we offer are like, you know, reels, like a 60-second or 90-second reel that just is like a trailer for your wedding day, you know, and it's just awesome. I mean, it looks great. It's artistic, and the quality in the audio is stupendous. So my point is, if you're still thinking that wedding videography is the way it's back in the day, take a look around, check out some portfolios, and see how far along it's come. And that also might influence you to want to get a wedding videographer. All right, guys, so I know I did a lot of talking in this video, but I really wanted to give you guys as much information as possible to really help you make an informed decision when it comes to figuring out if you should hire a wedding videographer. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions for me, just drop them down below in the comments. I always try to reply to every single comment. Or if you have like something you want to see me talk about next, let me know in the comments, you know, maybe something for another video I can expand on. We just want to keep dropping helpful content for you guys so that you can make the best decisions when it comes to your wedding, especially when it comes to wedding videography. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.